Welcome, fellow bookworms, to Tibra's Den. My name is Whitney, and today is April 1st, so it is the first day of Orilium, the Spring Equinox. This is my second semester participating, and I am really excited. So we have my scholar Avani, who is an Earthling, and Avani is quite ambitious. They are going for the Godseer calling, the Necromancy calling, and the Herbologist calling. If you want to see me creating my character and everything like that, I'll leave that video linked down below. But obviously there is a lot of books for me to read, and I didn't really know where to start, so I thought it would be fun if I did a spinner wheel for the month and choose my books that way. So I'll go ahead and insert the first spinner wheel here and see what we're starting with. So I was very happy when it landed on the Godseer Calling and the class of Restoration. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. The focus of this class is Uncommon Antidotes, and so it's a book with a 4+ star average rating. And so for this one, I have the Insignificant Events in the Life of a Cactus by Dusti, and I'm really excited about this one. And so I'm not gonna go over like my wrap up, like my full thoughts with you in this video, because there's a lot of books. It will be a long video, and I do plan on still doing a wrap up because I do have some other books that are not a part of Orilium. So I have a lot of books to read this month. So my plan is I'll give you the synopsis of each book in this video, and just kind of when I'm done with it, before I pick my next book, just my star rating, you know, kind of where it landed, but not my full thoughts on it. And then you can check out my wrap up if you are interested in my full thoughts, and then I'll just spin for the next book as I go along. So we're starting with Insignificant Events in the Life of a Cactus, and this one says, Avon Green didn't lose her arms in an alligator wrestling match or a wildfire in Tanzania. That's just what she tells people when she gets the looks. The truth is, Avon was born without arms, but at age 13, that hasn't stopped her from doing almost anything. Then her parents take a job running Stagecoach Pass, a rundown western theme park in Arizona, and Avon has to leave everything she knows behind. Avon struggles to make friends at her new school where the kids can't seem to get past her missing arms. But her life takes another unexpected turn when she meets Connor, a classmate who also feels isolated because of his own disability. Together they discover an old storage shed at the park that holds bigger secrets than Avon ever could have imagined. It's a hard to solve a mystery, help a friend, and face your fears, but Avon's about to find out what she's capable of and how far from insignificant she is. So this is a middle grade, should read really fast. The text is really big as well. So this is a good place to start because I should be able to knock it out pretty quickly. Plus, I am going to be reading some other books that aren't part of Orilium, so I'm going to plan on working on Air of Fire by Sarah J. Maas as I do my Orilium reads. And then I also have a new author I'm trying out. He sent me over his book called Bound by Blood by Sean David Brink. So I'll be working on that as well. So I'll have 3 books I'm starting with, and hopefully, you know, this one I'll probably be working on for a while I work on the other ones, but hopefully the Bound by Blood book is pretty quick as well. But this is where I'm starting for Orilium, so I think this is going to be a great start to the month. And I will be back when I have read it. I'll give you my star rating, and we'll see what book I'm reading next. Alright, it is now the afternoon of April 2nd. And I did finish Insignificant Events in the Life of a Cactus by Dusti last night. I forgot to say, so this is Uncommon Antidotes, so a 4+ star rating. And this one had 4.28 at the time when I looked everything up when I was creating this and kind of seeing what worked. It had a 4.28 star rating. I ended up giving it 5 stars. I thought it was really great. Of course, like I mentioned, this video is going to be long, so I'll go into my actual thoughts during my wrap-ups. So if you want to get my actual thoughts, definitely make sure you check back then. But I gave it 5 stars. I thought the disability rep was fantastic. I liked that took place in the desert, which is where I'm at, southeast or southwest desert. So I really like that aspect. There's like a tarantula aspect, which I love watching, like tarantula videos. So yeah, had a really, really great time. Great start to the month for sure. So there's that. I did go ahead and roll or spin the wheel rather again to see what my next book is, and I'm doing another restoration book. So I had ended up with 3 restorations because all of my callings each have restoration, and in this case I'll insert the wheel of course, but I ended up with Herbologist restoration class, so I needed another book that was 4+ star rating, and this one had a 4.08. I think when I was doing it I took the highest ones from my list. And so this one is a nonfiction, and it's due Zombies Dream of Undead Sheep by Timothy Versteinen and Bradley Wojtek, a neuroscientific view of the zombie brain. I picked this up at a thrift store, and it just caught my attention. I thought that sounds interesting, and I hope it really is. It's not super long, but of course, being a nonfiction, it's going to be a little bit denser. But it looks like there's a big old glossary back here. Acknowledgements, source material. So it looks like it's 227 pages. So that's not too terrible, and it's really not that like small of text or anything like that. So I do really hope I will enjoy this. But it says, with their endless wandering, lumbering gait, insatiable hunger, and apparently memory-free existence, zombies are the walking nightmares of our deepest fears. But what do these characteristic behaviors reveal about the inner workings of the zombie mind? Combining tongue-in-cheek analysis with modern neuroscientific principles, Timothy Versteinen and Bradley Wojtek show how zombieism can be understood in terms of current knowledge regarding how the brain works. In each chapter, the authors identify a characteristic zombie behavior that can be explained using neuroanatomy, neurophysiology, and brain behavior relationships, shedding light on fundamental neuroscientific questions, walking an ingenious line between seriousness and satire. Do Zombies Dream of Undead Sheep leverages the popularity of zombie culture in order to give readers a solid foundation in neuroscience. So I'm excited to tuck into this. I'm going to be working on my digital book for my new author, Bound by Blood. I read a little bit last night. I'm going to read more of that before I jump into this. So I'll probably spend part of the afternoon on that, and then this evening I'll jump into this. And I'm, of course, working on Air of Fire as well, but that's kind of my bedtime book. And so, yeah, I'm super excited about this one. And it's funny that we got restoration twice in a row, and maybe we'll get my Necromancy restoration next spin. We'll just have to see what comes up. But that's what I'll be reading, and of course I'll be back once I've got this read. Okay, so it is now the evening of April 4th, but I did finish Do Zombies Dream of Undead Sheep by Timothy Versteinen and Bradley Wojtek. I not smart enough for this book one, but I actually really, really enjoyed it. They used a lot of pop culture, which if you followed me for a while, you'll know that's kind of a pet peeve of mine. In like contemporary romance, those authors tend to use a lot of pop culture. In this case, it really worked. And they explain, like they, do a pop culture reference and they kind of explain the scene or whatever, which really helped. And so I love this. Like basically you're just diving into the brain, neuroscience, and what's likely happening in the zombie brain to create zombies. So you're learning about the brain and how it works. And then there's a lot of humor and facts and history. and examples. They use examples. So like if you were in the zombie apocalypse, like, and you're reaching for a rifle, this is what's going on in your brain, which was a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed this one. And I did give it 5 stars, even though I don't think I'm smart enough for this book. And of course, I'll get more into this in my wrap up as well. But 5 stars for sure if you're looking for kind of a funny, humorous nonfiction about the brain. This is a great one to pick up. I've had such a fantastic time. I learned about this chicken that got his head cut off, but he didn't die. Like, you know, obviously chickens can still run around with their head cut off, but in this case, the way the farmer cut, like, he was able to live for a while, and he went like on a sideshow expedition because they were just feeding him with an eyedropper, and he still had enough brain to live for a while. Really interesting stuff. And so I did go ahead and roll for my next read, which I'll insert the clip here, of course. And for that, we ended up getting Necromancy, which is animal studies. The focus is raccoon studies, and it's to steal a book from another TBR. So this one I had already had on my TBR for April, and it was a book. The prompt was for a booktube TBR, and Samantha Donovan is doing a Red Rising read along this year, and I originally found this from Daphne at Being Daphne, and I have since seen it on one other TBR for April, but I can't remember who it is. I watch so many TBR videos, but I have seen it on somebody else's April TBR as well. So I'm going to be reading Morning Star by Pierce Brown. This is the 3rd book in the Red Rising series, and so I can't tell you what this one is about specifically, but basically in the Red Rising series you have Darrow, and he is a red, which is the bottom of the barrel, and gold are the top. And the reds are like mining underneath Mars, and they're told that they're mining in order to make Mars habitable, and so people and humanity can live on Mars. But what they are not told is that people have already been living on Mars for generations. And so Darrow loses his wife. She sings like a song that's not allowed because it's considered rebellious, and they end up putting her to death. And so Darrow loses his wife, and he gets recruited by this rebellion and kind of changed so he can rise through the ranks of the golds, because there's obviously different levels of golds within, you know, they're the highest of all their groups, but there's also different levels there. So in the first book, he's like at an institute, and they're kind of battling, you know, to see where they're gonna go and whatnot. And so yeah, this continues that story. A lot happened in Golden Sun, and the way it left it, I cannot wait to see where we're at. So I'm actually very excited that this one came up. And that is what I will be reading. So far, I think I've given the other 2 like 4 stars. So I'm interested in see if this is similar to them, because we've already had 2 5 stars so far. So we'll just have to see where this one falls. So I will be back once I finish this. And of course, the YouTube channels I mentioned will be linked down in the description below. And so yeah, I'll be right back. Okay, so it is now the just afternoon, like barely afternoon, on Wednesday, April 9th. So Morning Star did take me quite a few days, but I have finished it at this point. I've also finished some other reads that aren't part of Orilium. So it's the 9th, and I've read 7 books total, finished 7 books, and I'm still working on Arrow Fire. I'm barely into that one. I'm only about 50 pages in on that one. But I am working on that one, and I have started it, and then I finished 7 books, and it's only the 9th day of the month. And so that's fantastic. This one was a 5-star for me. The other 2 have been 4-star. The first 2 books in the series have been 4 stars for me, but this one, it's part of the reason the others were 4 stars was there's a lot of characters, and like in the second book it was referencing characters that died in the first book. And same thing here. And that, like, I already struggle with characters. There's a lot of characters, and then trying to remember characters from other books on top of the characters in these books was a little bit rough. And then just the military, like the tactical side of the military element, is not really my thing. And so that's part of why the other two got 4 stars. They were very well written, very good. I enjoyed them. But they just didn't have enough to overlook those things that I didn't like about it. Where in this one, it was enough that even though I still didn't like those things, it's not quite my cup of tea. This one got a 5 stars. Like, there's so much heart in this one. It definitely causes me a lot of anxiety because you just don't know who's on the chopping block. It's very high stakes. You know Darrow, the main character, is gonna live, but past that, like, anything's game for what's gonna happen to him. And then all the other characters, you don't know who's gonna go. And so it caused me a lot of anxiety, but I really love this one. So 5 stars. So 3 for 3 on the 5-star reads, which is fantastic. So yeah, there's that one. I did go ahead and spin the wheel again, so I'll insert that here. And we got another Necromancer class, and that was for Conjuration, I believe. And the focus for that is locational summons. And so it's a random country generator. You can do up to 5, and it's for the author. So I did do this. Obviously, I did all this not on camera. But the countries I got were, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, and I'm so sorry. Azerbaijan. I'll write it here so you guys can see. I got Togo, the Ivory Coast, Brunei, and the Antigua and Barbuda. And so for this class, I chose Antigua and Barbuda, which are a pair of islands in the Caribbean, kind of east southeast of Puerto Rico. And I basically, what I did is I kind of looked to see for each country I got authors from that country, and then I picked from those. And so for this one, I went with Jamaica Kincaid, and I chose a short book. I looked at what the books were about. This one sounded interesting to me, and it just happened to work out that it was short. And that's At the Bottom of the River, again by Jamaica Kincaid. I believe this is a collection of short stories. So this one, it says, in this extraordinary collection of 10 stories, Jamaica Kincaid plunges us into an intensely physical world, partly remembered, partly divine, a childhood in the Caribbean, family manners, and landscape, transformed by her haunting visionary style. So yeah, I'm glad this is super short, because either that will allow me to do another spin and get another book for today, and it will also help me work on Air of Fire as well, because I would like to make a little bit more progress in that. But while I was reading Morning Star, my focus needed to be there, minus the short books I read in between. So yeah, this is going to be what I'm reading, and of course I will be back once I have my thoughts. I don't think this is going to be a 5-star. The ratings aren't the greatest. I don't remember, it was three something, but they're not the greatest. And short stories are typically not for me anyway, so I'm probably gonna break my 5-star streak with this one. But of course, I'll be back to let you know that in just a second, and we'll see what I spin next. Okay, so it is about 8 in the evening on Wednesday, April 9th, and I have finished At the Bottom of the River by Jamaica Kincaid. This took me most of the day, all afternoon, part of the evening, which it really shouldn't have. I was working on computer stuff, like getting videos uploaded and such. But even past that, like, it's just very confusing, and I had to reread things multiple times, and I still never fully grasped it. So I did give it a 3 stars because I kind of like the flow of it. I do like weird books like this, but normally I can understand a little bit more than what I got out of this one. But basically what I could grasp was, like, slight coming of age, like lessons you learn from your mother, like womanhood, things like that. Very, like, small things of life, like, objects and whatnot of the house and such, and death. There was a lot of death in there, but it was very ambiguous, very nonsensical, and I never really fully understood it. But it wasn't too, because I did get some enjoyment out of it. So I did end up settling on a 3-star for this one. So there is that, but that's done. I went ahead and rolled the wheel again, or spun the wheel, and I was really happy with what came up. So I will be completing Herbology, and I got Alchemy. And so the focus, so there's only the 2 classes for Herbology. The other one was what, Restoration, I believe. I can't see that. Let's see. Yeah, Restoration. So there's just Restoration and Alchemy. The focus for Alchemy is volume magnification, so all capitals, book title. And I had a lot of options for this, so as I was kind of weeding things out, what was left, I ended up putting one of those on, and that was In the Weeds by B.K. Borison. I'm going to actually not start this tonight. I'll start this tomorrow. I want to just spend the rest of the evening with Arrow Fire to make some progress on that, because I haven't made any progress on it other than the 50 pages. So I really wanted to spend some time with that book, but I wanted to go ahead and spin the wheel and see what I was reading so I could pick it up first thing tomorrow. And this is what won, which will be perfect because nice, quick, fun romance. I read 2 books by B.K. Borison now at this point and enjoyed both of them. I read Love Light Farms, which is the first book in the series, and then the new one, First Time Caller. And this is the second book in the Love Light Farm series. So it says, I'll start at the little snippet. It says, a grumpy farmer and a no-nonsense social media influencer have another chance at love in this charming romantic comedy. Evelyn St. James isn't the kind of woman you forget. Beckett Porter certainly hasn't. One incredible weekend in Maine, and he's officially a man distracted. He's not unfamiliar with hot and heavy flings, but Evie wove some sort of magic over him during their tumble in the sheets. He can't stop thinking about her laugh, her hand pressed flat against his chest, her smiling mouth at his neck. So when she suddenly appears on his farm as part of a social media contest, he is confused. He had no idea that the sweet and sexy woman he met at a bar is actually a global phenomenon. When Evie disappears again, Beckett resolves to finally move on. But Evie, who has been feeling disconnected from her work and increasingly dissatisfied with life online, is trying to find her way back to something real. She returns to the last place she was happy, Lovelight Farms in the tiny town of Inglewild. And it has absolutely nothing to do with the hot farmer she spent 2 unforgettable nights with. So I'm excited to read this. Like I said, I really enjoyed Love Light Farms. I enjoyed these 2 characters in there, and I think this whole series is just going to be one I adore. So it's about time I got to the second one. I'm kind of reading them seasonally. And so yeah, this will be what I'm working on tomorrow. And of course, I'll just be back with you guys once I wrap this up, so we can see what I'm picking next, and I'll give you a brief account of my thoughts on this one. Okay, so it is about noon on, I think it's Friday the 11th, and I did finish In the Weeds. I read it all day yesterday, and finished it up in one day, and so I wanted this to be a 5-star so bad. I really loved Beckett as the main character. Beckett and Evie both. I really love them together. Beckett, I did not know this, is definitely neurodivergent. He has a lot of social anxiety and sound aversion. So I really enjoyed that aspect. There was just some things that kind of got lost by the wayside, and so I couldn't quite give it a 5-star, but really loved this. Loved Beckett. Like, I love him as a character, and Evie was great too. Love them together. And so I had a great time with this. It just didn't quite hit the 5-star mark for me. So I did go ahead and roll this morning, and I got Godseer, which was Astronomy is the class. And for this, the focus is Lightfall, and I had to do a color wheel. So when I was trying to figure out all my books, I did spin a color wheel. I did not screenshot it or anything like that. You're just gonna have to trust me. But when I was trying to figure things out, that's one of the first things I did was spin a color wheel, and then I looked at what I had on my TBR and what would fit. And I got aqua, and I did have two options. One of them was I would consider this a light aqua, and that was the insignificant events in the life of a cactus, but I already did this for a different prompt, as you saw, which was restoration, and it's because it had a greater than 4-star rating. And so the other option I had for aqua was Deep End by Hazelwood. You can see the writing, and then of course the water, and it goes around to the spine and the back a little bit. So this worked for that prompt. And so yeah, I'm excited to read this. I was hoping to kind of space my romances out a little bit, where I'm going to be reading 2 back to back, but that is fine. I love romance, they're quick and easy. And so I'm excited about this one. This one says, a competitive diver and an ace swimmer jump into forbidden waters in a steamy college romance. Scarlett Vandermeer is swimming upstream, a junior at Stanford and a student athlete who specializes in platform diving. Scarlett prefers to keep her head down, concentrating on getting into med school and on recovering from the injury that almost ended her career. She has no time for relationships, at least that's what she tells herself. Swim captain, world champion, and all-around aquatics golden boy, Lucas Blomqvist thrives on discipline. It's how he wins gold medals and breaks records. Complete focus with every stroke. On the surface, Lucas and Scarlett have nothing in common until a well-guarded secret slips out and everything changes. So they started an arrangement, and as the pressure leading to the Olympics heats up, so does their relationship. It was supposed to be just a temporary mutually satisfying fling, but when staying away from Lucas becomes impossible, Scarlett realizes that her heart might be treading into dangerous waters. So we'll see how I get along. I've only read one other Ali Hazelwood, The Love Hypothesis, and I really loved that one. I haven't read anything else yet, but this one caught my attention when everybody was talking about it. So I'm excited to give this a go. Of course, I will be back in just a moment to spin for my next read and give you my thoughts on this. All right, so it is the evening of Monday, April 14th, and I have finally finished Deep End. I actually ended up not starting it. I decided to read and finish Air of Fire by Sarah J. Maas over the weekend because I had started it, but I was only like 50 pages in, and it's 562 pages. So I decided I wanted a break from romance, like I wanted to separate them a little bit. And once I fully dove into this book, like I just wanted to keep reading it. And so yeah, I ended up finishing that one, even though it's not part of Orilium. And so I started Deep End yesterday and then spent today reading it. I've been sick all day, so it was nice just to kind of cuddle up with this. I ended up giving this 3 stars. I didn't love it. I liked the sports element in here and like the mental health with her working through an injury and a mental block and such. Because of that injury, I really enjoyed that. I like the 2 main characters together, but the rest just was a little bit rough for me, which of course I'll talk more about in my wrap up. But I did finish it, gave it 3 stars, and so I did roll the wheel again, and I got Necromancer, and I got Shapeshifting, which I couldn't remember what book this was, and I was very happy when I saw it. So we have the focus is miniature dragon, which is perfect for this semester's theme, and we're saving the dragons and whatnot. And so I needed to have a dragon in the title, on the cover, or in the story. This fits all 3 of those. So I am going to be reading The Dragon with a Chocolate Heart by Stephanie Burgess. And so yeah, obviously dragon in the title, there's a dragon on the cover, and a dragon takes place in the story. So it says, all Aventurine wants is to explore the world outside her family's mountain cave. But as a young dragon, her tough scales haven't fully developed yet, and the outside is too perilous, or so her family says. Aventurine is determined to prove them wrong by capturing the most dangerous prey of all, a human. But when that human tricks her into drinking enchanted hot chocolate, Aventurine is transformed into a puny human girl, no sharp teeth, no fire breath, no claws. Still, she's the fiercest creature in these mountains, and now she's found her true passion, chocolate. All she has to do is get to the human city to find herself an apprenticeship, whatever that is, in a chocolate house, which sounds delicious, and she'll be conquering new territory in no time, won't she? And so, yeah, I'm really excited. This one, my sister-in-law is a teacher and she asked for recommendations um and for a student and gave me like an idea of what they liked, and so I was looking it up and I was like, that one actually sounds really good and I want to read it. And then I came across it, I think, at a thrift store, so it's, a little bit of warping on the pages and such. But yeah, and it's been sitting there probably over a year now, so this was the perfect excuse to get it on to a TBR. And so that's what I will be reading. And so I will hopefully be back tomorrow. Since this is a middle grade, I believe. I should hopefully be back tomorrow and be able to read this pretty quick. Get another book spun and see what I'm reading starting tomorrow. But I'll be right back for you guys and let you know how this went and what I'm reading next. Okay, so it is evening of Tuesday, I believe it is, the 15th, and I have finished The Dragon with a Chocolate Heart by Stephanie Burgess, and I love this. This was just a perfect little middle grade, like so cute. You have the dragon and the chocolate. There's good plot with the chocolate house failing and then her family coming to, they're searching for her, but the humans don't know that and they're just scared of the dragons. So there was really great plot throughout, good pacing, good side characters, just really, really fun. And there was like this humor because she's a dragon. She kind of looks down on the humans and such. A really great middle grade. If you haven't read this, I say it's a good one to pick up. So I ended up giving this 5 stars. I did spin the wheel again, and for this time we got Godseer, and the class is Inscription, which the focus for this one is the hook, and so it's the first sentence challenge. Try 3 and pick the best. So like I said, I had done this already because I was trying to get as many of my TBR books to fit different things as possible. So the first book that I ended up not getting on for anything in Orilium that I had tried was Small Spaces by Catherine Arden. I'll go ahead and read the first sentences for you guys, even though, like I said, I already did this and then picked my one. So this says, October in East Evansburg, and the last warm sun of the year slanted red through the sugar maples, which is nice, but doesn't really give you a whole lot other than a setting thing. The other one, which I've already read and used for a different prompt, was In the Weeds by B.K. Borison. And so for this one, the first sentence was, she's sitting at the bar when I walk in, summer heat thick and oppressive at my back. So again, a little bit, but not much. And then the one that won for this prompt was Into the Bright Unknown by Ray Carson. And this is actually a 3rd book in a series, so I'm really excited because this will wrap up the trilogy for me. It says, the log cabin I share with the Joyner family is murky and dank, with a packed dirt floor that moistens to near mud at the base of the walls. And I don't know, I just, out of all those, I like the other 2 fine. Probably In the Weeds was my least favorite. And this one, like, I could just picture it so well, and because I'm familiar with the series, that probably played a part into it, but I'm really excited to read this. So this series is the Godseer trilogy, and basically you have Leah and her friend Jeff in the first one, and Leah is a Godseer, so she can sense gold, and this is during the gold rush. It's a historical fiction, and with magical realism, and so it's during the gold rush. She can sense gold. Her parents end up getting killed by her uncle for it. This all happens in the very first part. So her parents end up getting killed by her uncle, and then he wants to use her to help find gold and such. So she ends up going on the run, and she ends up going on the Oregon Trail. And the first one's very Oregon Trail heavy. They're going to California, but it's the same trail for a while. And then part of their wagon party splits off to go to Oregon, and the rest go to California. In the second book, they're in California, but her uncle's still after her. Things are still happening, and so this is following the events, of course, of those two books. And I am excited because the way things wrapped up in the second book, it could honestly have been a duology. And so I'm excited to kind of see where the author took it, since it is a trilogy. But I've heard nothing but good things about the whole series from a couple of people, and I'm so excited to wrap this up because I read the first book last year, and I was trying to get to the second book for several months and just never was able to, and I finally read it last month, and so it's perfect that I'm getting to the third one right away. And I just love the writing. I love the historical aspect, the characters. It's just such a fun series. And so I will be starting this. I'm going to see how much I can read tonight. It reads pretty fast because it is young adult. I'm going to see how much I can read tonight, and then hopefully wrap it up tomorrow and get another book chosen. But of course, you'll see what happens in just a second, and we'll choose my next book. All right, so it is the evening of Wednesday the 16th, and I have finished Into the Bright Unknown by Ray Carson. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I do think I honestly would have preferred the series just as a duology, because this one, you still have the same characters. Like, I really enjoyed being back with these characters, but the conflict felt kind of disconnected from the first two. It felt like, well, they wanted it as a trilogy, and so they kind of created this conflict in order to do a trilogy. And there was some big mistakes and a little tiny mistake. And so I just don't think the care was taken when it was written. And yeah, but I did enjoy it. It has a heist in it, which I didn't realize. Kind of that setup. So that was fun, and I did enjoy it overall. I just preferred the first 2 books in the series over this one, but it was still really fun. I love the historical with the magical realism element. So there is that one. I did, of course, spin the wheel. I said roll the wheel. Spin the wheel. And we got another Godseer class, which is perfect because we're whittling that down. I think now there's only 3 left over there. So another Godseer class, and we got Demonology. And when I saw what book this was, I was very, very excited because it also works for something else I'm participating in. And the focus for Demonology is banishing basics. So a book with a missing person. And so for this one, I'm going to be reading the second book in the Legendborn cycle, and that is Bloodmarked by Tracy, Deonn. I'm really excited to continue the series. I read the first one, was it February, I think? And really ended up loving it. I didn't like it so much as at first. I thought it was very heavily over explaining everything, but once I got into the story, I absolutely loved it, and I'm really excited to continue on with the second one. The third one came out the beginning of March, so I'll be able to read that hopefully sooner rather than later as well. And yeah, I'm excited about this one. So basically in this one, it's based on the Arthurian legend, and you have Bree, and she ends up going to this early college education program. And when she's there, she's seeing things, and there's the secret society. And so she's like, what's going on? And the secret society is all based on Arthurian legends and the descendants and such, which is really fun, and magic and such. And so I really had a great time with it. There's kind of this mystery regarding her mom as well. And the way it left off was very exciting. there is a kidnapping in this one, so that's where the missing person comes in, but I'm not going to read the synopsis, obviously, because it is the second one in the series, but there is a kidnapping. So I'm really excited to get to this. Like I said, it works for something else I'm participating in, and it's one of the chunkier ones on my TBR. This one comes in at 551 pages. It is YA, though, so the text, though, is pretty tiny, but it should read quickly because the first one read quickly. Even though the text is smaller, it still reads quickly like a YA. So I'm very excited to read the second one, and hopefully I'll be able to get the third one on a TBR soon. But yeah, that's what I'm going to be tucking in. It's about 6 o'clock at night, so I'll be reading it this evening. It's probably going to take me at least 2 days, if not 3, I would say, to finish this. So we'll just have to see how it goes, and what day I'm back to update you guys on it, because yeah, it's definitely gonna take me like a few days to get through this, I imagine, unless I just, like, dive in. But I'm really excited about this, so I will be right back to let you know my thoughts on this and spin for the next book. Okay, so it is the afternoon of Saturday, April 19th, and I finished Bloodmarked by Tracy Deonn this morning. I ended up giving this 4 stars, very much like the first book in this series. The first, like, 150 pages, and then the next 100 I didn't love either, but the first 100 was very overly explained, like overly complicated. It recapped. I appreciated the recap, actually, of the first book. There was a lot of recap of things that happened in the first book, but the way it was done, it was just overly explaining things again and just overly complicated, and I really struggled to get into it. The next 100 pages I didn't love, but then the story really took off, and like the last half of the book would have been 5 stars if it wasn't for the first half. And so yeah, I ended up loving the ending, and the second half of the book completely. Had a really great time with that. It's just that first half really struggled to get into. So yeah, 4 stars on that one. I did spin, and this time I got Necromancy and the class Inscription, which again is, I know we just had it for Godseer, but it's the hook, so it's the first sentence challenge to pick 3, or try 3 and then pick the best. So the 3 I did, first I did the digital book that I have already read. It was the author had sent it over for me to give a try. I did that, and I read their other adult book. I've since learned that they also have under Sean D. Brink another book, which I'll leave linked down below. But that's YA. But I tried that, so it was Bound by Blood by Sean David Brink, and the first sentence was Seth waited on the sidewalk. And so yeah, that didn't give me a whole lot. So that one obviously didn't win, but I read it anyway because I was gonna read it anyway. And then the other one, one of the other ones I picked was Nightbane by Alex Astor. This is book 2 in the Lightlark series. And the first sentence of this one is, Isla Crown tasted death on the back of her tongue, which is actually a really good first sentence, but I did not choose that one. That one is on my May TBR, though, so I still will get to it fairly quickly. So the one I picked was Gothicana by Rue Nix, and the first sentence on this, get past the author's note here, and all the maps. There's a lot of maps here. So it says, there was nothing scarier than a blind old woman with whites for eyes suddenly gripping your arm under a full moon night. That one is just like, what? It pulls you right in. It gives you the creepy vibes. So I'm going to be reading this one. And it says, an unusual girl, an enigmatic man, an ancient castle. What could go wrong? An outcast her entire life, Corvina Clem accepts it as a sign from the universe when she receives the admission letter from a mysterious university of Venrenmore. The last thing she expects is an old, secluded castle on top of a mountain riddled with secrets, deceit, and death. Bad Deverell is one of the castle's greatest secrets, a professor working on his thesis. Thad has been around long enough to know the dangers the castle possesses, and he knows the moment his path crosses with Corvina, she's dangerous to everything that he is. They shouldn't have caught each other's eye, they cannot be, but a chill-inducing century-old mystery forces them to collide. People have been disappearing at Venrenmore. Karina is getting clues to unraveling it all, and Vad needs to keep an eye on her. And so begins a tale of the mysterious, the morbid, the macabre, and a deep love that blossoms in the unlikeliest of places. So I am very, very excited about this. I've been wanting to read it since it came out, and I only hauled it recently. And so I'm gonna tuck in. It's a kind of cold and rainy day. Like we've already getting 90-degree weather, and then today it's just cold. I think the high is supposed to be around like mid 60s, and it's rainy, which haven't been getting a lot of rain, so that's nice. So I think this is the perfect vibes for a cold, rainy, windy day. So I'm gonna go tuck in with my pups and give this a read. I'm hoping I can fly through this. It's not very long. Looks like three, just less than 400 pages, 384. And so, yeah, I'm very, very excited about this. So, of course, you know the drill. I will be back after I read this. I'll give you my brief thoughts on this, and then we'll see what my next book is. I'm hoping I can finish this up today, read it really quickly, and then jump into my next book. Okay, so it is the evening, about 5:30 on April 20th, so Sunday. It's Easter. If you celebrate, I hope you had a good Easter. And I did finish Gothicana just now. I ended up giving this 4 stars. I loved all the different elements. I loved that it was, there's a dark romance, kind of a taboo dark romance. I love the dark academia. I love like supernatural or not, or just evil. I love that. And I really enjoyed there's actually schizophrenia in here, which I liked. I don't know enough about it to know if the rep was done well, but I personally liked how it was done. Excuse me. And how our main character struggled with that, and knowing, what's real, what's not. That definitely played into it, and it played into the romance, and I liked Vad's role in kind of grounding her and such. I just didn't think it was balanced well. The plot kind of stalled out multiple times. I didn't love that, and so I ended up giving it a 4-star. I went ahead and spun the wheel. I almost said rolled again. And this time we got my Necromancer calling, and we got the class Restoration. And so it's Uncommon Antidotes, and this is a book with a 4-star average rating. And for this one, it is James S. A. Corey, Leviathan Wakes. This is the first book in the Expanse series. And when I checked, it was 4.31 rating on this. I'm actually going to be listening to this on audio, so I do not want to start it tonight. But we've had more wind. I'm going to have to do a deep clean because the dust is just horrible in the house. So I'm very happy I ended up getting this because I was kind of hoping to have it for tomorrow when I'm cleaning and such. So that will be perfect, but I'm not going to start this tonight. So I did spin again. But let me go ahead and tell you what this one is about. It says, welcome to the future. Humanity has colonized the solar system, Mars, the moon, the asteroid belt, and beyond. But the stars are still out of our reach. Jim Holden is XO of an ice miner making runs from the rings of Saturn to the mining station of the belt. When he and his crew stumble upon a derelict ship, the Scopuli, they find themselves in possession of a secret they never wanted, a secret that someone is willing to kill for, and kill on a scale unfathomable to Jim and his crew. War is brewing in the system unless he can find out who left the ship and why. Detective Miller is looking for a girl, one girl in a system of billions, but her parents have money and money talks. When the trail leads him to the Scopuli and rebel sympathizer Holden, he realizes that this girl may be the key to everything. Holden and Miller must thread the needle between the Earth government, the outer planet revolutionaries, and secretive corporations, and the odds are against them, but out in the belt, the rules are different, and one small ship can change the fate of the universe. So yeah, I have this, like I said, on audio, and I will be listening to it starting tomorrow while I'm doing chores and such. And this one I'll probably listen to throughout the week while I read others physically. So this one's gonna be kind of ongoing throughout the week. And so then I spun again, and this time I got again Necromancer, my calling, but the class is lore, and the focus is the Song of Ages, and it's a musical term in the title. And I know G basically said you can be as loose as you need to be with this, which very much helped me out because I only had 2 books that would even sort of work, and it is kind of a stretch, but I'm counting it. So I'm going to be reading The Sparrow, which is another sci-fi, so I'm going to be doing 2 sci-fis. But this one, Sparrow, is a songbird. So that's how I'm connecting it to song and the musical term in the title, because sparrows are songbirds. And the other book is very, very similar as well. It's bird, it's just a different type of bird. So anyway, this is what I'm going to be reading tonight. And so this one doesn't really have a synopsis, but this blurb here kind of gives you an idea. So it says, an experience not to be missed. If you have to send a group of people to a newly discovered planet to contact a totally unknown species, whom would you choose? How about 4 Jesuit priests, a young astronomer, a physician, her engineer husband, and a child prostitute turned computer expert? That's whom Mary Doria Russell sends in her new novel, The Sparrow. This motley combination of agnostics, true believers, and misfits become the first to explore the Alpha Centauri world of Rakat, with both enlightening and disastrous results. Vivid and engaging, an incredible novel from the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. So this is what I'm going to be reading. This has actually been on a TBR before, and I didn't get to it. It is a little bit denser as far as the writing, but it's just, let's see here, it's just over 400 pages, so hopefully it reads fairly quickly, and I can read a good chunk tonight, and then I'll switch over to Leviathan Wakes during the day while I'm doing chores tomorrow, and then switch back to this tomorrow night. So it'll probably be a couple days before I have an update for you guys. And it'll most likely, like I said, I'm planning on working on this throughout the week, so this will be the one that I probably finish first and get back to you on, and then I'll pick my next physical read after that. So it'll be, again, just a moment for you guys. So it is the evening, about 7 o'clock on Tuesday, April 27th. I did listen to Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey yesterday. This one, I listened to it for the whole day. I ended up listening to over just 9 hours, which is just under 50%. It's like 44%. The audiobook is almost 21 hours. And so I listened to it all day yesterday. I love this. This is sitting at about a 5-star for me. I obviously still have the second half to go. Our 2 main characters have just joined up, so I'm really excited to see where this goes, but I noticed towards the end my mind was wandering. Otherwise, I was enjoying this so much I probably would have listened to it overnight. I haven't read it at all today because I had to do such a deep clean and such yesterday because of all the dust. My back was hurting a little bit, so I just kind of wanted to stretch out, watch YouTube while I read the other book. And I do have to go. This one I'll probably work on Friday and then Monday, because Friday I have to go to the grocery store, and it's going to be a big grocery shopping trip, so I'll listen to it while I grocery shop and then put everything away, and then probably a little bit after that, and then I'll finish it up on Monday. I'm going down, which you'll see this video on Monday, I'm going down to my grandparents'. It's my grandpa's birthday, and then my grandma's birthday is a week later. My grandpa's going to be 88, and my mom and my aunt are coming down to visit him, so I'm going to go down there so I can see them and spend his birthday with him. So it's about an hour drive there, and then another hour back, so that's at least 2 hours, and then I'll probably listen to it a little bit more once I get back home as well, and hopefully be able to finish it up on Monday. But right now, where it's sitting at 5 stars for sure. But of course, if you want my full thoughts, check out my wrap up, which will be next Monday. And then I'm about just over halfway on The Sparrow by Mary Doria Russell. This one, I've been kind of wavering between 4 and 5 stars. I honestly think it's going to end up being a 5-star because the parts that I'm like about, like it's a very slow pace. I don't think it would have the same impact if it hadn't been written that way. So I'm leaning more towards a 5-star, and we're really getting into the meat of it right now. So I'm planning on finishing this up tonight, but it'll probably take me into bedtime, just because it is a little bit denser and it's taking me a little bit longer to read. And whatever I don't finish tonight, I have just under 200 pages left to go. I think I'm at 190 now. Whatever I don't finish tonight, I will just finish up in the morning. But I'm planning on trying to finish this tonight. I should be able, to have less than 100 pages by the time I go to bed. And then that should just take me a couple hours once we're actually in bed to finish it up. So I do plan on finishing this tonight. Right now, it's about a 5-star. But again, just check back next week. You'll get my full thoughts in my wrap up. I did decide, the reason I'm telling you about these now instead of finishing them like I have been, I want to go ahead and wrap up this video now and just focus on my reads. So I went ahead and spun to see the order I will be reading in next, like what order I'll be reading in for the rest of these books. I am going to make one change though, because 2 of the books, if I can get them read by Friday, which I have a good chance if I read them tomorrow and Thursday and then maybe just have a little spillover on Friday, then they work for something else. But I need to turn them in for, it's Kim from Expedition Through Pages, her Tales from Two Trails game, The Quest is this round. And so I just need to get those wrapped up and then I can turn them in. I've fulfilled all the other prompts. There's 6 prompts and an activity. So these are going to fulfill the last 2 prompts. I've already done 4 and the activity. So I'm going to switch. So this first book I'm going to talk about is actually going to be after the next 2, but I spun it first. So I did have 2 classes that I forgot to take off the spinner wheel. The first one, you wouldn't even know about if I didn't mention it because I spun it first. And that was the Gothicana, which I just, finished up. So I was like, oh, I already read that one. That's mute point. Then I'll insert the front of the chair, of course. I rolled my Godseer, Calling, Psionics, and Divination. And the focus for this is Psychokinesis, Book with Witches or the Occult. And so for that, I'm going to be reading the next one in the Souls trilogy, and that's Her Soul for Revenge by Harley Laroux. And this definitely fits that vibe. There is, the main character in this one's not a witch. The one in the 3rd book is a witch, but obviously she plays a part in the rest of the series, and it definitely has the occult, so it definitely works for that. But basically in the first one you have each one's kind of following a different couple. Obviously they're dark romances, but the first one, basically each one has a demon lover, and then the main characters are these 3 girls, but in the first one, she basically comes back to town and there's something targeting her, and basically trying to offer up for sacrifice for this dark entity, and so they're trying to kind of take down this cult that's doing that, and then they also need to stop this dark entity that's coming to light, and so that's kind of the overall premise for the series. And so in this one, we're following Juniper and Zane. And so yeah, I will be reading this. He said this should be next, but I'm gonna tweak my own rules a little bit, so I will be reading this after the next 2. So then I rolled which you might have noticed I ended up rolling my Godseer calling Inscription, but again, I already read that book, so that didn't count. And so then I did Godseer Conjuration is what I rolled next. And so that is, the focus is locational summons. So the random country generator, and I told you guys what countries, because you can pull up to 5 or randomize up to 5. I already told you all those. And so for this one, I chose from the country of Brunei? I'm probably mispronouncing that. I know I looked it up, but I can't remember now. And so it's a Southeast Asian country off the northern coast of Borneo. And so for this one, I found the author Devika Ponnambalam, and I'm going to be reading I Am Not Your Eve. So this is the one I'll probably be reading tomorrow. And so it says, I Am Not Your Eve is the story of a Tahitian muse and child bride of Paul Gauguin, Taha Amana. It is a novel that shares her thoughts as he works on one of his masterpieces. The Spirit of the Dead Keeps Watch, a painting so important to Gauguin that it appears in the background of his own self-portrait. As we listen to Taha Amana herself, the other voices in the novel include those of a Tahitian goddess of the moon, a lizard watching from the eaves, and Gauguin's wooden mask of Taha Amana's face, carved from a sacred tree cut down from the island's interior. Interwoven are the origin myths that underpinned Polynesian society before the islanders turned towards the Christian faith introduced by French colonists, and diary entries by Gauguin's favorite daughter, Elaine, who was the same age as her father's new wife. It is a novel that finally gives Taha Amana a voice as her story is told through the myths and legend of the islands, and one that travels through history asking to be heard. So it sounds like, sorry, I got an itch. It sounds like one I'm going to really enjoy. It doesn't have the best ratings, and so it works for Kim's game because one of the prompts is lowest rated. So I'm going to be reading that up next after I finish my 2 sci-fi books. This will be the next one. And then I rolled for Necromancer calling the class Spells and Incantations. And for this one, it's spell copy paste. And it's word from your last book title. And at the time I watched the video, the last book I had read was The Songbird and the Heart of Stone. And so I'm going to be reading The Archive of the Forgotten. So that is obviously really easy to copy and paste and such. And normally I would have tried probably to find like Songbird or Heart or something like that. But in this case, because of the placing of the, it really worked. Like the way the titles were laid out really worked together. So I'm going to count it. And this is the second book in the Hell's Library series by A.J. Hackwith. I loved the first one. And this is also my pick for Adventure in Aldea, which my prompt I don't remember what path it is, but basically I needed an author with a W in their name, and Hackwith obviously has a W. But this is the second book in the Hell's Library, and basically the Hell's Library, I think it's Claire, yeah. She's the librarian, and one of her books escaped. So it's all the unwritten books go to Hell's Library, and then there's also an archive that's kind of part of it, but ran by somebody different. And so the books kind of are sentient in a sense, and can get restless and such. So one of her books escapes. She goes off to go get it back, and she ends up, there's also other characters involved and whatnot, but this angel ends up, like confronting her, thinking she's after like some kind of evil tome, essentially. And so then she starts going on an adventure to try to find this tome before the angels get their hands on it and such. And there's, her assistant, there's the courier that brought her the original message about her book. There's this other demon. Like, there's all these characters. It's really, really fun. And so I'm excited to continue on with the series. And this also works for Kim's game because it's a book about books, essentially. And so, yeah, I'm hoping I can get, where did I put the other one? These two read by Friday, which I should because this one's super short. It's under 200 pages. And this one I think is just over 300, about 340 it looks like. And so I should be able to, I don't have any chores. I busted my butt yesterday. I did laundry today. So the next couple days I should be able to just settle in and read. So I'm thinking I should be done with these by Thursday evening, Friday morning at the latest. And so I can log them for Kim's game and get all the points, which will make me very happy. And then I'll dive in to Her Soul for Revenge this weekend. So that's the plan there. Then I spun Necromancer Calling, and this class is Demonology, which I just had for Godseer, 2 books ago. And so this one is a book with a missing person. And for that, I'm going to be reading Life of Pi by Ian Martel. The whole premise of this is a sunken ship, and our main character is adrift at sea, and the other people are just lost at sea and presumed dead, but they don't really know. And why he's adrift at sea, he's a missing person too. So it says, Pi Patel, a God-loving boy and son of a zookeeper, has a fervent love of stories and practices, not only his native Hinduism, but also Christianity and Islam. When Pi is 16, his family and their zoo animals immigrate from India to North America aboard a Japanese cargo ship. Alas, the ship sinks and Pi finds himself in a lifeboat. His only companions, a hyena, orangutan, a wounded zebra, and a 450-pound Bengal tiger. Soon the tiger has dispatched all but Pi. Can Pi and the tiger find their way to land? Can Pi's fear, knowledge, and cunning keep him alive until they do? And this is also my pick for my readathon, which is Genreathon. And the prompt was kind of focused on Easter, so to either read a different religion or culture to your own, which this definitely fits with him being from India, Hinduism, and Islam, or just to read a Christian fiction, and this obviously has Christianity. And I also have read a lot that fits my Genreathon prompt this month. And so, yeah, that will be the next book up. And then the last one I rolled is, you already saw the clip, so there's only 2 left. And that's my Godseer Calling, and it's lore. The focus of this is again the Song of Ages, which is a musical term in the title. And so, I'm already reading the Sparrow for this one for my Necromancer Calling. And so along the similar line, I'm going to be reading The Bear and the Nightingale, because again, nightingales are songbirds. Excuse the dog's daddy's home. So I will be reading this. I'm so excited. I also will be reading Small Spaces by this author this weekend for my family book club, and we'll talk about it on Sunday, so I'm planning on reading that Saturday. Because it's short, it's middle grade, it should go fast. But anyway, and then I'll be finishing up the month with this. And so this one, it says, winter lasts most of the year at the edge of the Russian wilderness, and in the long nights, Vasilisa and her siblings love to gather by the fire to listen to their nurse's fairy tales. Above all, Vasya loves the story of Frost, the blue-eyed winter demon. Wise Russians fear him, for he claims unwary souls, and they honor the spirits that protect their homes from evil. Then Vasya's widowed father brings home a new wife from Moscow. Fiercely devout, Vasya's stepmother forbids her family from honoring their household spirits. Vasya fears what this may bring, and indeed misfortune begins to stalk the village. Vasya's stepmother only grows harsher, determined to remake the village to her liking and to groom her rebellious stepdaughter for marriage or a convent. As the village defenses weaken and evil from the forest creeps nearer, Vasilisa must call upon dangerous gifts she has concealed to protect her family from a threat sprung to life from her nurse's most frightening tales. So, yeah, I'm really excited. This is the start of a trilogy. I have the other 2 books, and so this will be a good way to wrap up Orilium. There is one other book I'm hoping to get to, and it just arrived today. I kind of want to drop everything to read it, but I'm not going to do that, but I'm hoping I will have time the last couple days of the month. Excuse me. I pre-ordered this. I never pre-order anything, and that's Voice of the Ocean by Kelsey and Pichike. She is a Sims YouTuber, and she plays some other games, but mostly she does the Sims, and I've watched her since she worked at BuzzFeed and did the 100 Baby Challenge, and then when she started her own channel, and so when she wrote a book, I'm like, I am so getting that. And normally I don't pre-order, but because it gives me anxiety, like waiting and knowing I have like a book coming. But I did in this case, and so I'm excited to read this. I will leave Kelsey's channel linked down below, but it says, as the youngest daughter of the Siren Queen, Celeste's life is tightly controlled. Desperate to prove her worth and escape her destiny, trapped in the palace as a royal figurehead, she intends to join the chorus, an elite group of Siren warriors. With the final test on the horizon, Celeste feels the pressure to finally gain control over her temperamental song, a magic gifted by the goddess herself. But when Celeste encounters a seemingly harmless ship in Staria's waters, helmed by the intriguing Prince Raiden Sharp, her path veers towards forbidden water. Believing the handsome sailor to be innocent of any wrongdoing, Celeste defies Siren law to save Raiden's life, despite knowing he is the son of a king who has murdered many of her kindred. The penalty for Celeste's betrayal should be death, but the queen offers her an alternative: right her wrong by assassinating the prince. Determined to first discover the truth behind the prince's clandestine mission, Celeste agrees to become human. The human world is nothing like she expected, nor is the prince the charming and noble man she assumed him to be. Disguised among Raiden's ragtag, or I think it's Raiden, it's pronounced Raiden, and she says from Japanese. So it's Raiden, even though spelling-wise you would normally pronounce it Raiden. It's Raiden, sorry. Raiden's ragtag crew. She searches for the truth, but as Celeste finds her place aboard the ship, friendships and attraction begin to grow. Will Celeste be able to do what must be done, or will her choices unravel a kingdom, devastating sirens and humans alike? So, I'm hoping I can finish up the month with this one. Otherwise, it's going to be my first read of May, because I definitely don't want to wait longer than that. But I do want to complete my readathons and the things I'm participating in, and so I'm gonna be responsible and do that, and then jump into this as soon as those are over. Yeah, I've been waiting for this book. She's been talking about it like when she was writing it, before she even got signed to a publisher or anything like that. Like, she talked about it throughout the process, and so I've been wanting this for a long time, and so I'm very excited to read that, hopefully, like I said, the end of the month. But I do have, quite a bit of reading still to do the rest of this week and through the weekend, so this is kind of what we're looking at here, which is a big old stack of books. But like I said, I'm halfway through these 2, which is helpful. And so yeah, that's kind of the plan. Like I said, I'm wrapping up this video, so you won't get my thoughts on the rest of these. So if you're interested in those thoughts, definitely come back for my wrap up, which it should be next Monday. I don't foresee anything happening that it won't be. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna be doing. And like I said, I have one other book for my family book club as well that I'll be reading Saturday. And past that, I'm just going to be working on these books. So I would love to know if you've read any of these books, if you're interested in reading any of these books, maybe if you were participating in Orilium, what your favorite class was. I would love to know that down in the comments below. If you don't have anything to say, you just want to let me know you were here, and help support the channel by commenting. You can always leave a rabbit or any type of animal emoji. You can even leave a mermaid. I would love to see little mermaids in the comments for Voice of the Ocean, because I've been so excited about this book. Or a songbird, whatever you want. Leave it down in the comments below. I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys here. Happy reading, everyone. Bye.